Israel's high court has issued a ruling that may not only change the cultural fabric of Israel, but also may dismantle Benjamin Netanyahu's very, very fragile coalition. The Israeli High Court ruled that ultra-Orthodox men have to serve in the Israeli military. It's a landmark ruling. It was a unanimous decision from the High Court, and they have honestly done a complete 180 from what they've done in the past. You see, for years, the Israeli High Court has given a religious exemption, right? And the religious exemption for them, for the ultra-Orthodox Jews, was a form of equal protection. In other words, everybody in Israel has to participate in military service. It's a conscription army. Men and women serve time. It used to be 3 years. Now it's more like 2.5 years in the military. The women do a little bit less. And it's a part of your citizenship. If you walk through Israel, when you walk through Israel or the West Bank, where it's illegally occupied, you'll see a bunch of soldiers that all look pretty young. Most look really young. And it's because they're doing their time in the Israeli army, Israeli military. But the ultra-right has always said that their religious beliefs prevent them from having to participate. Now, when I say the ultra-right, I don't mean that in any pejorative sense, although some people don't love the term ultra-Orthodox. Some people don't like to be considered ultra-Orthodox. They prefer the term strictly Orthodox. They prefer the term Haredi or Haredim, which refer to people who have very strict readings of scripture. They are they are fundamentalists. And they have very particular adherence to conservative religious values, whether it's separating men and women, boys and girls, whether it is where they go to school, how they go to school, whether it's the clothing they wear. When you see that black or navy suit with the white shirt, when you see the fedora, when you see the Homburg hat, when you see black skull caps, these are all things that you see from the Haredim, the ultra-Orthodox. Now, some people think of the ultra-Orthodox as anti-Zionist. The ultra-Orthodox are not anti-Zionist. Some are, but most aren't. Most are non-Zionist. In other words, the bulk of the Orthodox Jews, the ultra-Orthodox Jews in Israel in particular, don't necessarily believe in the formation of an Israeli state at this juncture, but they're not out there trying to dismantle the Israeli state either. They have a kind of practical or pragmatic belief that, look, we don't believe in this, but we need this thing here. There's a very small slice of people who are ultra-Orthodox and actually identify as anti-Zionists. They actually protest the Israeli government and its existence. Groups like the Netanyahu Karta, who make up a very small slice of the ultra-Orthodox. So when you see ultra-Orthodox, I don't want you to think they're all like the Netanyahu Karta, who are like marching through Jerusalem saying like down with Israel. Most of them support Israel. They just aren't like, philosophically they would say we don't support it, but practically they do. But all of it is tied into a religious belief that the state of Israel should not be formed, and that the action of Israel should not be formed until the return of the Messiah. And so until the Messiah comes back, they don't believe that Israel should have been formed. And because they don't believe that, that's a major reason why they don't participate in military service. So that's been the status quo. That's been the norm. They say that the religious exemption protects a religious minority. In other words, we don't believe in this, and so we're not going to participate in it because it's against our religious beliefs. And the state is saying, yeah, everybody has to participate, but because it's for religion, we will allow you not to. That is a fairly standard state response within so-called democracies, right? It's the same thing in the United States. But in a new ruling, the Israeli government has concluded that the state was carrying out, quote, invalid selective enforcement. And that this invalid selective enforcement, quote, represents a serious violation of the rule of law. So they were basically saying that by not forcing these people who don't believe, we're creating bedlam. We don't have equality in the application of the law. So they're saying the only way to have true justice is to make these people fight. Now, there are some practical reasons why the Israeli government is doing this. I want to give you all the full context. That's what night school is about. In 1948, when the state of Israel was formed, the Haredim were like maybe 400 people, maybe, 100 families, something like that. Definitely 400 people were ultra-Orthodox families, right? And so it was like, all right, these 400 people ain't got to fight. The problem is, Haredim families be procreating. They believe in that part. They definitely believe in procreation. Their family size is somewhere between 6 and 7 children, not 6 and 7 people, 6 and 7 children. They are the fastest growing birth rate and the fastest growing segment of the country's population. 25%, 1 out of 4 men who are of draft age or enlistment age in Israel are Haredim. So basically what Israel's saying is, it's too many of y'all not to fight. It's too many of y'all not to fight. And if you're not eligible for military service, you're not eligible to work. You can't have a job if you get out of military service. So now you got 25% of people who aren't working and who aren't in the military. That's rough. I understand the Israeli position on this. I'm not agreeing with the Israeli position, but I understand their logic. They're saying we can't afford this, both militarily or economically. The problem is that's the price of democracy. Israel always says it wants to be a democracy, and yet here's a moment, once again, where you can respect religious freedom. You can respect people saying, look, this is our belief. If you are Haredim, if you are Haredi, it means literally the word, like in Islam, we talk about taqwa, right? A fear or a loving fear of God, right? Haredi means to fear God as well. It's one who trembles before God. They're saying we don't participate in the modern world. We don't believe in it in terms of the eschatological end of it, in terms of what the end of days is. We also don't believe in it because we don't want to be part of a modernizing project. We are running from the modern world. The military brings us into it. So respect our religious faith. But there's a much more practical thing here that I want to tell you about real quick before we move on. It's very simple. The Netanyahu coalition only works. It only works because Netanyahu, who's probably center right, although he pretends to be a liberal, he was able to pull the right in. The Yoav Gallants, the Itamar Ben-Gavirs, right? The right-wing racists. But he also brought in the religious right, the ultra-religious right. Now, Netanyahu, who also wants to fight the court, erode the court and take the power from the court and put it in the executive branch, he's now chipping away at that. If Netanyahu does not have buy-in, and I'm not blaming Netanyahu for the high court's ruling per se, but they've applied a lot of pressure to the high court. And at a moment where a genocide is being prosecuted in Gaza, they're recruiting as many people as possible. So you got all these moving parts that are at least intensified and worsened because of Netanyahu's action. Anyway, all that to say, the Israeli government's falling apart. The Netanyahu government in particular is falling apart. And this ruling is going to alienate and isolate the ultra-right. And it's going to make Israel an even more intolerant space than it is right now. It's already intolerant for Palestinians. It's already intolerant for non-Jews. It's already intolerant for religious minorities. It's already intolerant for peaceniks. It's only going to get worse.